afternoon, good night, depending on the time on the day you're watching this. Let me refresh YouTube because they always says you're connected and then you are not, and you're looking at the screen like an idiot. Well, that's my usual look, but doesn't matter. Let me refresh. Yeah, sure,
YouTube.
sure. Shut
There
up.
is a message for you.
Shut up, YouTube. Yes, yes, yes. We're connected. Sorry about that. That came in too loud. So, as I was saying, we are here doing a time travel show. We disguise it as comics, but it's fake. It's a time travel. Just so you know, right now it's 10 a.m. for our guests, 5 p.m. for me. We're like 7 hours. So we just traveled. You didn't see us, but him and I, we traveled to a wormhole to be at the same time. I know that's bullshit, but please play with me. Be with me. That's make it funnier. So anyway, how are you, Daniel? How's things?
I'm good. I'm good. I have my iced coffee. I'm about to get my day started. I'm feeling good. Feeling good. It's a good Monday.
Happy to hear that. Is there anything that you miss like crazy? I mean, my name is Victor Frankenstein. Very nice to meet you, Mr. Johnson. This is a pencil, but this just became syringe. I just popped two into you, and the rest of the world, fuck it. I just cured the pandemic. So we are free. We can do whatever we want. And then my question is, what's that thing that's been nagging you for like since March? That is like, oh my God, when I'm free, this is the first thing I'm gonna do. What could it be?
Oh man. Uh wh- well, okay. This is if it's all safe and ready to go. I mean,
Yes. I'm a god. We only do safe things.
yes. Okay. Yeah. Everything is fine. The world is open. I would go to Japan because my wife and I were supposed to go to Japan last year, as a celebratory trip after Wonder Woman.
Mm-hmm.
And because whenever I finish a big project, like a big comic book project, we try and take at least like a week off and go somewhere and kind of and do and for me, it does it do a creative reset.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that didn't happen. So
Well, give it
I,
time. Just give it
yeah,
time.
yeah.
It,
So
uh,
that's the first thing I would do.
do you miss comic conventions at all?
Oh yeah. I mean, I love them. They kind of fuel me. They get me excited to draw again. It's really great to interact with fans that have read the work and have thoughts and are excited to talk about it. And then I love just being with my peers and just kind of remember, like, it's a good reminder of like, okay, there's a reason why I do this. There are other people that do this. There are other people that are working alone in their houses for days on end. This is before the pandemic, but uh, you know, it's just really good to sit around and just draw and hang out and talk about you know talk about the way we make images. It's special and I miss it.
That feedback pushes you, right? Pushes you to come back home, but there's
Huge.
also the other part of the convention, which is, don't you miss? That's the part I miss the most, to be honest. To just be sitting down in a restaurant with somebody you having a meeting or dinner was, and suddenly somebody you're not expecting shows up,
Yeah.
another creator you haven't seen 2 years,
Yeah.
and suddenly he sits down here and you start talking like it was yesterday, the last time you
Yeah.
saw each other, and then showing each other's stuff, even with a fucking cell phone. You're just like, look, and then you go crazy and you love it, and that's what you go home and tell to your wife, as I used to do. You know what? I saw that person I haven't seen in years. Does that happen to you? And do you miss it?
That would happen to me all the time, and I do miss it. I'm a very social guy. I think I may kind of like break the stereotype of like shy, introverted comic book artist because like I love going out. I love hanging out with people. I love talking with people. I love meeting new people. And just like you said, you go somewhere and you see somebody and you catch up with them, and then you see somebody else and then they join, and um, it's a whirlwind. It's the best kind of whirlwind. Just
Hmm.
always going, always going. I love it. It's so much fun. I miss it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys, just so you see, extroverted. He loves people. He's just telling us, invite me to your cons. In a way. In Spain, don't worry. You know that it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. The moment that this opens again, I'm inviting you.
I can't wait.
You pick. But the other ones, we have people from Colombia, Costa Rica, and other countries here.
Oh, awesome.
So you guys, start preparing. The moment the pandemic is over, just start calling and saying, Daniel, we want you in our country. Our goal next year, Daniel, is going to be to have you doing around the world in 80 days.
That's good to me. I'm ready.
Let me see how people are saying here. Chaos and Comics. Hi, everyone. Benjamin Flores, or Benjamin, sorry. DYJ is the man. Good morning.
Good
Mike
morning.
Flowers. Okay, guys, I always say leave the questions for the end, but since you started like crazy, I'm going to ask the questions already. Mike
Okay.
Flowers tells you, what elements of storytelling do you still struggle with when working on a project?
Just well, a lot of things, but the biggest thing for me is just the very beginning process of, you have like a blank piece of paper and you're trying to make you're trying to like catch something out of thin air. Um and that initial like something from nothing process is, I don't even know how it happens. I kind of mystify, like I've tried whenever I start a new project, I think back to my old projects, be like, how did I start this? And I can never remember like, how it happened. Um but it more, especially with my creator owned stuff, not so much with the big two stuff, because with like Marvel and DC stuff, it's kind of like there's like a toy box full of toys that
Hmm.
I just like go and play with, and it's just fun, and everything that I need already exists in the world already. Um like Beta Ray Bill and Fin Fang Foom in issue 1, right? Um Whereas with my creator owned stuff, I have to make all the toys. So it's like so much more work. Like I'm going to an empty box and I'm trying to make a world out of nothing. And so just trying to like blood, sweat, and tears every time I start a new project. So
And there's also the part that when you're working on the big two, there's like between brackets, you have the safety net, as you said,
yeah,
the toy box, or being able to the library of knowledge about the characters. That your blog just something like, oh, in that panel 25 years ago, whatever, Danny Rand or Beta
yep,
Ray Bill or whoever did
yep,
this. Nobody talked about that thing that happened in a corner of a single panel. I can
right.
extend, but in or whatever, crazy stuff. But in the case of your creator own, it's like, shit, there's no toy box, it's me. Right?
Yeah, I'm on my own. I'm like just trying to make it all make sense. And because it's all in my head, a lot of times when I'm making it, there's always this like, because when you work on Wonder Woman, it's like Wonder Woman exists. Wonder Woman has been celebrated for decades, and in a way. I'm like kind of trying to contribute to that legacy, and I have something. I have got like a momentum behind me. When you're working on like a creator owned project, I'm like half the time I'm like, am I nuts? Is this even gonna work? Like, is this worthwhile? I don't know. This has never existed before, and now it's coming out of me. I hope people like it, and then so on and so forth.
But we have the horror of page one, as you said.
Yeah.
What is the best way to fight the horror of page one? Just as Bill Sienkiewicz told me, I just plow ahead and I work and it'll work sooner or later. Or the
Right.
other one, which is the other version, a lot, but it's a lot less poetry, which is when you said, "Oh shit, the deadline is looming. I have to do it."
So that so the latter one, the oh shit, the deadline is looming. That happens a lot with big two like Marvel and DC stuff, because the deadlines are so much more intense, and a lot of times because of editorial and like working with established characters that have like, they're like, they're more of a corporate brand than almost
Absolutely.
like a character. Changes have to be made or things need to be switched around, and you're just a lot of times kind of flying by the seat of my pants, which is kind of fun because it's like that's part of the nature of the beast of working for those companies, which I kind of enjoy. It
Hmm.
forces you to loosen your grip, the death grip on the
Yeah, absolutely,
story, and
absolutely.
have a little
You
more
know,
fun.
you know, it's not yours, so you know that sooner or later you look at the calendar and you are like, "Oh yeah, I gotta do it."
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm. That's exactly, you hit it on the head. And then with the creator owned stuff, the as far as like a deadline, when I'm first, again, the hardest part is just coming up with anything that makes sense and just
Hmm.
like scrounging up something from thin air. That part is like before I've even like pitched a book or really like put it together. So then I'll just kind of like, I'll have an open Word document that I just kind of go back to, and I just add what I'm thinking, and there's no semblance of making sense at all. It's just like a document with just random paragraphs and just sentences,
Hmm.
words, names of things, like a cool name. and I'll just leave it there. And eventually, after maybe about 4 to 6 months, I'll have like this amalgamation of like maybe anywhere from 150 to 500 words of just things that would only make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I start editing away and moving things around and like adding little ideas that I have. And it starts in the word in like a Word document, and then I'll also be kind of sketching out some ideas like on pieces of paper, and just kind of exploring visually in between my pages, like Beta Ray Bill, say,
Mm-hmm.
or Wonder Woman, of like, oh, this is a cool design idea. And I've come up with a lot of cool ideas in the morning, so I actually have a little sketchbook next to me,
Mm-hmm.
my bed, next to my bed, and sometimes I'll just wake up and I'll like run, I'll like roll over, grab the sketchbook, and do like a crappy.
What did you grab? What did you grab first? Your glasses or the sketchpad?
Oh, the sketchbook. I
I
mean,
know
like,
it. I knew it.
yeah, yeah,
It's like shit, man.
yeah, yeah. When I read in bed now, I read like this, like, because I don't like having it like this, so I'll just sketch it out, and then I'll actually tear that page. I'll tear that page out of that sketchbook near my bed and put it in my like actual sketchbook. Um, and I'll like glue it in, and like stamp it on, so it's part of the archive.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
How many sketchbooks? How many notepads do you have around the house?
I first started doing like sketchbooks and trying to make that a discipline since my sophomore year of college, which was in 2007. So since 2007, I have about 35, maybe 36 sketchbooks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's great. It's a great resource for me to go back and feel good about myself when I see my progress through, it's been over 10 years now. So
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's good. So Chaos and Comics says DYJ is one of the best. Pablo Rios, which is a Spanish creative artist that I'm going to have here on Wednesday, aquí el
awesome.
miércoles, he says, "Hey man, give him a kiss from me. Tell him he's a machine." So, wow. Felipe González Hernández, Mr. Johnson. You've just been elevated to Mr. Just so you know, Mr. Johnson.
Okay.
How do you remember your beginnings in comic books?
Well, I mean, if we're gonna go like really, really early in beginnings, I remember I tried to make a Deadpool comic when I was like 12, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
This is way back, and it didn't make any sense, and the guns were so huge, and it was all in pencil on like printer paper. Um, and then I actually didn't really do a ton of comics in high school. It was more just I was painting a lot, and I was doing figure drawing, like doing figure drawing classes at the local art center. Um, and then when I went to college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I decided to try and become an art teacher,
Mm-hmm.
which I didn't really like. And I kind of, going into college, I was a little bit afraid of getting made fun of for reading comic books in
Mm-hmm.
college. I was like trying to use it as a way to like start over, to like prove to everybody that I could be cool. So I like didn't really read comics, and then getting into my sophomore year of college, I was drawing more and more, and I was finding other kids that I was going to college with that were really into comic books that exposed me to things that I didn't know existed, like Hellboy, like BPRD, uh, Invincible, Walking Dead, like the kind of comics, like as things were kind of evolving past just like Marvel and DC, which I had
Mm-hmm.
kind of like not grown out of, but I was just always looking
You
for
can
something
you
more.
can say it. We all grew up out of them and then came back. But we all have a time when we are
Yeah,
like, you know what? I've read it 1,000 times. I need something else, right?
exactly. And I had never really read comics other than like Tintin, which because I those are in my library, which were not like superhero based.
Mm-hmm.
So reading, like getting exposed to that in college and saying, oh, okay, comics don't just have to be like capes and people
Yeah.
in suits. That really started getting me excited about it. And then I really was into comics from then on, like sophomore year on. And then after graduating, I was a teacher for a while, and I was starting to read more like BPRD, and this is around the time that like James Herron was coming out with some stuff like
Oh.
BPRD: The Long Death. Do you remember that
Mm-hmm.
miniseries?
Absolutely.
That miniseries probably is one of the main reasons that I actually like started trying to break into comics.
I'm really sad about BPRD, and I guess that you feel the same. That of course, it was so eclipsed by Hellboy
Sure.
that many times I kept telling people you have to go back. There's some incredibly amazing stuff there. Herring, you have a lot of Guy Davis, a lot of
Oh, Guy
amazing stuff.
Davis. Yep.
So when people is like, "What about the Mignola one? Is the good?" No, the Mignola one is the amazing one. Yes, absolutely, it's a masterpiece. But BPRD is also a masterpiece that needs to be revisited by a lot of people. Do you agree?
I completely agree, and I feel like Guy Davis is one of my favorite artists. Period.
Yeah,
Um, and I was looking. I was so James Herron was a big influence, but also Guy Davis in the way that I draw now. Guy Davis has this kind of like frenetic approach to line work in his comics that I really appreciated, that
yeah,
I felt like was really rare. And it
yeah,
looked like he was really having fun. Like he's not sweating over every line. He's just like getting it on the page and
hmm
making it look cool, and a very direct sense of storytelling. And um, it's still, I don't think about it enough now today, but like that was like my later years of college was just I was obsessed with Guy Davis.
yeah.
So, yeah.
No, same thing. I remember back that day I was rereading Sandman Mystery Theater,
Mm,
reading The Marquis, and reading BPRD. It was like
yep.
in a period of 2 years, and I couldn't stop saying like, nobody else, like in
Nobody.
this business, nobody does it like he does. And as you said,
Nope.
it was so vibrant. So
Yes.
it didn't, I won't say that because a guy would kill me. It didn't look effortless, but it looked like, he was just actually enjoying it, enjoying the life of the
Exactly.
comic
Yes.
artist.
And I feel like I don't know if this is a valid thing to say, but I feel like I can I feel like I have a good sense of when like an artist was like relatively enjoying themselves,
Yeah,
or like maybe at least drawing while not being stressed out.
yeah,
um I mean, and I love like Akira and like that very detail heavy kind of work, but the stuff that has always mattered the most to me is the stuff which it just looks like it's just a very natural, from brain, personhood, to arm, to hand, to drawing, to the paper. Like I want to be able to see the personality of the person come through, and that's when they're just being the most themselves, and I see that a lot in Guy Davis's work.
absolutely, absolutely agree. And as you see it in actors, if you have seen enough pages in comics, you know that when an artist is enjoying and when it's a struggle. You know how
Yes.
how the lines flow or don't, how sometimes it's broken and people doesn't see it normally, but say, oh, that's broken there, it was like, oh, fuck it. So
Yeah.
things like that, and you can see it, and many people are like, how did you know that that person wasn't enjoying that book? Did you know it when they said, like, move me to another one? It's like, no, you can say it because of how the lines flow. You
Yep.
can say how tired they were. You can say, oh, that spaceship, the way it's moved. No, he didn't think. He just took a 3D and put it in the easiest position because he fucking hates drawing spaceships or things like that. Anyway, see, Felipe Gonzalez asks, would it be possible for you to come to Spain in a Comic Con in the future? Yes, we'll make it happen. We'll make it happen.
100%. 100%.
If it's not me, my wife will take care of it. My wife is the marketing director of ECC, who publishes DC Comics in Spain. Just so you know. So
Okay.
it's not me. She will make it happen. Anyway, Victor Q, hi from Colombia, Daniel. One of the
Hello.
best artists in the medium. Big fan of your work. You're truly a master.
Thank you very
Oh.
much. I appreciate that.
Chaos and Comics asks you, in the near future, are you sticking to being writer and artist for your work? I guess he means if you're going to collaborate with somebody else, or you prefer to do the whole process.
As long as I am able, the goal is to write and draw my own stuff always.
Mhm.
Um, I want to have a, how do I put this? I want to work. I want to do this for as long as I possibly can, and I want to work well until I can't work anymore. So, in order for me to do that, I really don't want to burn out. And one
Mhm.
thing that I love about writing and drawing is I can approach the projects at my own pace. I can take my time with things, and I know my limits. I know I know the stories that I want to tell. I know the stories I don't want to tell,
Mhm.
and it just gives me a lot of creative autonomy to just kind of do what I'm excited about and what's going to get me. Drawing comics is very hard. I mean, I lead a very I've got a great life, and I don't I have no uh, delusions about like what I do. I sit and I get to draw every day, which is a huge privilege.
Mhm.
But it is hard work, and there I'm. I'll put it this way: like writing and drawing my own stories keeps me from coming close to burning out.
Mhm.
Uh, it keeps me creatively fulfilled, and I'm not ruling it out because there are some writers that I absolutely love. Um, but for the most part, I'd like to keep it mostly in house.
Okay, imagine this guy calls you tomorrow. Whoops, where's the other side?
Oh boy, Frank
Imagine
Miller.
he calls tomorrow and says, Daniel, do you want to write? Do you want to no? Do you want to draw one of my stories? Would you jump or would you bark?
I don't know if I'd jump. I don't know if I'd do it. And I'll tell you why. Frank Miller, you look at Frank Miller, he's like he's like a huge like hot air balloon, right? Like he's huge. He takes up the whole sky.
Yes, absolutely.
And I am like a little bird. I'm like a little robin that's next to it. So if I fly next to that balloon, nobody's gonna see the little robin. They're just gonna see the balloon. They're just gonna see the big balloon, and that's fine. And I think he's. I wouldn't be the artist or storyteller I am today without Frank Miller.
Hmm.
But I want to cement my own legacy. So I don't know what that looks like, but I know I can't ride Frank's coattails to get there.
Oh, absolutely. No, I remember once I told Frank that he's so big that he casts no shadow. He like, and
It
he was
just
like,
takes up the whole yeah.
yeah, and he was like, "Are you calling me a vampire?" It's like, no, shit, you're not getting. It's the other. It's the opposite. So
I've never gotten to meet him. I'd love to meet him someday.
he's incredible, and then we were making, of course, jokes with Klaus and about being. Frank, this is a science, a stupid physics thing, but it's a joke. If it's not funny, sorry. It's that Frank is the star, and we are that small exoplanet. That goes
Yeah.
around that you can only see when it casts. He does bleep of a shadow. Like, oh, I guess there's something there. And Frank was like, no, I'm not that. That's I don't have that ego. And we're like,
Right.
no, we're not talking about your ego. We're talking about how big you are. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I've never met him. I can't speak to that, but and another thing too is like it's definitely a writer's market, and especially like with all of the kind of like Netflix and Amazon, and like people are trying to make TV shows all the time. They need new ideas, they need new stories, and I want to be considered as a person who has the capability to make new stories.
Absolutely.
Um, so for whatever reason, I mean, I think
Okay,
every
why
artist.
and what
Oh, go ahead.
what if you wrote for Frank?
That'd be pretty cool.
Ah.
I mean, that would never happen, but I'd be into that.
Wait, we can talk. If remember, I'm God. I just do a fucking pandemic with a rotary pen. So if I
Yes.
can do that, I can convince Frank. Hey, Daniel is another God. He's gonna write a short story for you. You draw it, and he'll say yes. Either that or he'll kill me. But one of them. Anyway, Victor. See, we're talking about Frank. Victor Raqu says, which were your influences?
Well, we'll start with Frank Miller. I mean, I so back in the late '90s, early 2000s, there wasn't a ton of comic books at the public library where I was
Mhm.
growing up. It was basically Calvin and Hobbes, Dilbert, and like Tintin. Those are the only things that were really
And of
collected.
those three, two were good and one was a piece of.
Well,
And
I
I'm not
was
talking
getting.
about his politics. I'm not talking about his politics. No, no, no.
I got you. Um, well, but like I was like anything that looked like a comic, I got from the library, and that
Mhm.
was like as everything, like even like Family Circus, I'd get like the collected editions of that. Calvin and Hobbes was always my favorite, but at first the library only had newspaper strip collections. That was like
Mhm.
all they had. So I'd get every one of those, and I'd read every one of those, and then like they started getting Tintin. I got every one of those, read them all, and then they started to get a few DC comic collections, and so they had Batman Year One, or with Miller and Machiavelli,
Yeah.
which changed my life. I mean, it was huge. It's so visceral. And then The Dark Knight Returns was such a huge. I remember reading that for the first time and just like one thing that I loved so much about that writing is mostly, I mean, the art too, and the way that he would like tell a story, but it was mostly the writing and the confidence of the characters' voices that Frank would write.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
the biggest thing about that book that I remember now, like that affecting me, is do you remember when uh Bruce Wayne is listening to his voicemail messages, like, and there's no like, it's basically like a beep. It's like, Bruce, call me back. Like, we need to talk. Or Bruce, it's Clark. We need to talk. And it's just like, there's no explanation. It's like everybody knows. Like,
Yeah.
and Frank was working off the knowledge that comic book fans had of the past and applying it to the present, and like the understanding of the story now. He was relying on the legacy of these things from the
Mm-hmm.
past to move forward.
Absolutely.
And he wasn't treating the audience like they didn't know what was going on. There was no explanation because he knew how smart people were. And one thing that I've always struggled with my writing is like, you know, dumbing it down, which people are really smart. Like,
Yeah.
people know story,
Yeah.
like, so it's been an inspiration. Frank was an inspiration to really push that element of my writing and just like letting it go and just going and expecting people to be there for their ride. So Frank, huge influence, especially with writing and drawing. And then, you know, probably a huge influence for me is like Bill Watterson, mentioning Calvin and Hobbes, and he was the first artist that I actually saw that was like stretching forms and making, and like Hobbes jumping out of a door, like he'd be like this long,
Mm-hmm.
like his body, and um that had a huge effect on me, and it affected the way that I drew even back when I was a little kid. Um
And
yeah.
in that also, we were talking about Frank before, and one of the things that I always mention when people says, oh, Frank hated Superman, or Alan Moore hated superheroes, and I'm like, no, you don't get it. You can't
Sure.
speak about superheroes the way Alan Moore did in all of his
Right.
books if you don't love them like hell. You gotta love. That's based on 30, 45, 50 years of reading them and loving
Yes.
them. And same with
Yes.
Frank. He understands that tension between Superman and Batman, and he says, I'm a reader. I've been a reader for all my life. I know you as a reader know the same I know. So I know that if I'm gonna put that call me back, people is going to interpret there's a tension there.
Yes.
So he's talking to your reader, as you said, never dumbing down, because you know that you don't talk down to your reader. They know as
No.
much as you do, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a huge thing. And also, this is not comic related, but I took a uh when I was in college, it's so weird. You have to, in Illinois, when you go to college to become a teacher, you have to take a test after you take like history, math, science, to make sure like you know everything.
Mm-hmm.
um and if you fail these classes, if you fail this test, you have to take those classes over again.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't remember some I failed like the literature part, the science part, and the yeah, I failed the science part and the literature part. So I had to go back to do summer school, and if I wanted to graduate on time, I needed to take an American literature course, but it was like a super advanced course. And I had a teacher there. I don't remember his name, but I had no choice. If I wanted to graduate, I had to take this class. And I remember we were doing like basically like doing writing exercises based on stuff like um, let's see, Ragtime by E.L. Doctorow. We were reading let's see, Beloved by Toni Morrison. So like pretty intense like American literature that was like really pushing my ideas about storytelling. And we were having to write about these books, and he would just give me D's all the time, because he's like, look, this isn't that bad, but it's not like a level 4 paper. You gotta. And he basically was like, every other word was read it out, and he's like, you're not being economical with your sentences. You need to make
Mm-hmm.
them sound good, and you're just using these phrases that like that Americans use all the time that don't actually say anything. And he's just like taking me apart, and wasn't until like halfway through the class that I started getting it, and it made me such a much better writer. Like, it changed the way that I thought about writing sentences and about dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Like, half the characters that was writing before were just like doing monologues. I'm like, no, the character doesn't. No, people don't talk like that. It's like, get to the point, make it sound unique, move
Mm-hmm.
on. And so I'm very thankful to that class as well for,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, there's so many things that have influenced me over the years, but that's a big thing.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and that's also, considering the space you have in comics, that's also amazing, because it helping you get to the point it's actually a way to help you do good comics, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and storytelling is storytelling, um, and like tension and release. And one of the ways you get good at telling stories is by reading and watching and listening to a ton of stories. So, um, yeah, I'm glad I've had that experience.
Mhm. Rodrigo Zayas, who's also an amazing artist, and correct me, Rodrigo, if I'm wrong with your title. I think you're your head concept artist for Amazon Prime in Spain.
Oh,
He's telling me,
awesome.
Daniel, come to Spain. Everything is paid. By whom? By whom? Because I have no conventions now, so that could be a little tricky. Feed 1404 says, come to Galicia more specifically. Galicia is my state, northwest. I live in Barcelona, but it's there.
Okay.
Believe me, Steve, I would love to take him there. If I had a con to run there, I don't. So, I don't know. But people have somebody working there will do it. He'll come, as we said, 80 days around the world. He will do it. La Balda de Comics, love every single comic you've done. Hope to see you one day here in Spain. Yes. Stop.
Yes, 100%.
Stop.
I want
Stop.
to. I want to come.
As
I
you are
want
going
to
to
come.
repeat the same thing, can you talk us about? See what I told you? The question is, how can you talk us about your next work in Beta Ray Bill?
Of
Told you what's
course.
coming.
Yeah. So actually, I was talking about. It's funny. I emailed Will Moss,
Which
like
is the
just
most hateful person in the world. No, I'm kidding. Will Moss is his editor. We love Will. Stop. It's a joke. It's a joke. Online,
Will.
internet, don't take it out of context. It's a fucking joke.
Will is awesome. And so I got his email somehow. This is before I hadn't actually met him before, but I basically just emailed him out of the blue, being like, "Hey, I'm just really interested in doing a Beta Ray Bill comic at
Oh
Marvel."
shit.
And I thought, I figured, it was just like it was an email to like just kind of establish a connection and just start a conversation. I didn't really think
Yeah, but
anything of it.
by the middle of line two, you were like, you know what, screw it. I want to do Beta Ray Bill.
Well, we kind of went back and forth, and he was not convinced that a Beta Ray Bill comic was really going to sell at the time. And this is way before King and Black. So this is a few years ago.
Mhm.
And he's like, but I still really want to work with you. And I said, well, whatever it is, I'd like to write and draw it myself. And so we were talking about a few ideas, and we tossed around a few things, and um, like we were like kind of like brainstorming a few project ideas, and things didn't really work out, but we just kept the line of communication open. And then right around the time that Murder Falcon was wrapping up, and Marvel was knew that Murder Falcon was wrapping up, they were getting more serious about doing a Beta Ray Bill thing. And so we were talking. I was talking to Marvel about that, and I was talking with DC about Wonder Woman at the same time. So I decided to do Wonder Woman first, and I was hoping that Beta Ray Bill would still be around afterward, but I wasn't sure. And then the pandemic happened, when like because right before, see, this is like maybe March. I was like, hey, I'm starting to wrap up on Wonder Woman. Are we thinking about Beta Ray Bill? And they're like, yes, 100%. We're still in. We still want to do it. And then Diamond shut down in the States. The distributor, yeah.
That was
This is
Diamond
like
Revenge.
April.
That was
Yeah,
right, Diamond Revenge. It was like, we
yeah,
want the Beta Ray Bill a couple of years ago. You didn't do it? Fuck you.
yeah, yeah. Um, that was like April or May, and then they were like, it's not that we don't want to do it. We just have to put a big yellow light on it for right now. So I was like, okay, that's fine. So I started working on another creator-owned project instead. So I just like started trying to attack that and trying to figure it out. And then I sent another email in June because things Diamond had come back on, and a new normal was kind of coming into view. Where it's like people aren't going to bars, but people are still buying comic books. Thank
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah.
Um, and I was like, hey, how are we feeling? And Will was basically like, if we kind of tie the first issue into King and Black and make it like spin off of that, I think I can get uh, Marvel to pass to like
Yeah.
to give us the green light on a Beta Ray Bill. And I was like, whatever it takes. He's like, so Will was like, I want you to be able to tell your own story, but it has to like spin off of King and Black. which I was okay with. I was like, hey, I want to write and draw Beta Ray
I,
Bill,
I
whatever it
want to do
takes.
better reveal. Just give me just let me know how.
Yeah, yeah. And it's kind of fun to like. So with Wonder Woman, it was a Black Label book, so there was no strings attached. It was just I could do what I wanted with the character, and within reason. But they let me go pretty crazy. But I didn't need to worry about continuity or like what was going on in the universe at other times. With this, it's a kind of a different animal because I'm constantly getting these emails from Will being like, "Okay, you can't use that weapon because that's over here in this different dimension." And do you mind if we switch this, and getting all of our ducks in a row and like dotting our i's, crossing our t's, making sure everything's working. But in the end, I was able to take Beta Ray Bill and kind of put him on his own adventure, which is the 5-issue miniseries, which will be coming out at the end of March,
Mhm,
where Beta Ray Bill is distraught at the loss of his weapon Stormbreaker. It is shattered. It's in a million pieces, never to be reconstructed again. And Bill is pretty frustrated about it. He's trying to find himself in the midst of uh, Thor and gods, and you know, he's really lost right now. The weapon was kind of his. He identified with that weapon. It was the thing that allowed him to change back into his old self, his more humanoid self.
mhm,
He's no longer able to do that. So this is kind of that journey of where Bill decides to go post, like basically to try and find a new weapon.
mhm.
So, uh, oh, sorry, my thing fell.
It's
So,
okay.
so yeah, I mean, we're just having a good time with it. I'm having a good time with it. My stupid thing. Sorry.
Don't worry, fix
There we
it. We
go.
people can wait.
So I don't know. I'm having a really good time drawing it. It's really fun. Uh, One of the things that we were able to do to kind of like tie. So basically, we're using the first issue as a way to um, kind of wrap things up with King in Black while also launching Bill on his own story.
Mhm.
And so I was able to kind of tie Fin Fang Foom into that as well, which you can see on the front cover, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Like we were trying to find like a Marvel character or entity that could be a threat to Asgard as the last King in Black battle like on Asgard. And
Mhm.
I was like, well, what about Fin Fang Foom? I've always wanted to draw Fin Fang Foom. So Will was like, that sounds awesome. Let's do that. So that's most of the first issue, and it's a blast. It's really fun.
And that's out this month, people. Just so you know. And how far are you into it? You're close to finishing it, or still in the middle? So where are you?
Let's see. I just finished page 6 of issue 3, drawing
Mhm.
wise, so I'm pretty far ahead. Um, Marvel, they move fast. They fly by the seat of their pants, just like everybody else. So
Oh,
I'm
Marvel,
doing.
Marvel especially. Marvel's like go 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 go. Like,
Oh
what?
yeah,
What? We just talked 5 minutes ago.
yeah,
Like, no, no, you can start. You should be in the middle of issue 1. Like you have put it 5 minutes ago. What are you talking about?
yeah. It's a different animal for sure. I'm doing my best with it. But it is fun. It's demanding, but it's really fun.
Mhm. Thaya says, "What made you take the step of having your amazing YouTube channel? What has surprised you the most about the experience?"
Yeah. So thank you. I'm so glad you like the YouTube channel. It's been really fun to work on. The most surprising thing is the amount of work that goes into like just getting a channel started with like the gear and like learning how to use the gear and learning how to edit. I mean, it was a ton of work. Like holy crap, so much work. Um, and so if I had known how much work it was going to be when I started, I don't know if I would have done it, but now all the work is done. So I'm plowing ahead. I'm trying to be realistic about the amount of videos that I can make. Um, but I always go live once a week on Fridays. And then I try and do a few more videos a month, as much as I can. Uh, but yeah, I can't believe how much work it is. I need to figure out a way to balance it with my actual work, but I don't know. Ever forward, I suppose.
Absolutely. Fernando Bernier, this is an amazing question. Watching the onomatopoeias, you know that effects that you
Yes.
do, spectacular ones that you create in your comics, which one is the onomatopoeia created by another artist that has impacted you the most? And how much do you plan the kind of onomatopoeia you're going to use?
Okay. That's a great
Fernando, I
question.
love this question. Thank you.
Yeah, great question. Thank you so much. Um, well, let's see. I really I had trouble with this is in the early no, this is like 2008, 2009. A lot of the comics that I was reading was using digital automatopoeia, like they were
Hmm.
just kind of almost like they felt a little bit like I don't mean to insult any letterers here, but they did feel a little bit like afterthoughts
Hmm.
going on to the page, like on this beautiful line art, and there's just this very like digital looking boom or what have you. And I get that it's an easy way to do, and I realize that it's an art form of itself to do on the computer. However, it always really I my favorite was when I could tell that the automatopoeia was in the art and it was like a big part of the page composition. One of the biggest influences for me, just to start with, was Frank Quietly using some automatopoeia in his work, um, and then also Walt Simonson work his automatopoeia work in Beta Ray Bill, or in Thor
Yeah.
really, um, and really pushing that, and then Kirby as well. Um, just like the it's like unabashedly just fun, like just big, thick, powerful letters that add to the intensity. And one thing I've noticed, like when I started drawing comics, when I was doing like let's say the fight scenes or the action scenes, I'd be drawing characters like fighting or whatever, and then I would be trying to like draw backgrounds in every panel because I didn't want people to think I was lazy.
Hmm.
So I would like, but then what I was finding was the backgrounds were like kind of making the action go a little slower. Like when you have so many lines, when you want something to read like very quickly and intensely and have motion, a lot of times more lines and more background is going to like actively take away from that. So
Absolutely.
not to say, I mean, like I love using props and I love using the environment to like make a fight scene or an action scene be more impactful, but at the same time there are some moments which need to have space so you
Yeah.
can see the impact and you can feel what's going on, but at the same time you don't want it to be just completely blank. And for me, automatopoeia, especially within fight scenes, has just been the perfect way to have fun with the existing space. And my style of like approaching like drawing like characters on a page or just the layout of a comic book page in general, I
Hmm.
don't like to get super up and close with characters. I like you to be able to see the poses. I like to be able to pull out a lot, and when you pull out a lot there's just naturally negative space that exists around the characters that I draw, and automatopoeia is just like the perfect way to make everything fit
Hmm.
in the way that it should. It's kind of like a putting together a Rubik's cube, and just you want it to all be correct. And
It's these two
also,
approaches at the same time, right? Is the less is more, meaning you need less stuff in the back, but you can use the perfect onomatopoeia to give you the information. So
yes,
you do less detail, so it moves faster for the
yes,
reader, but at the same time you give them the boom.
yes, and also, not also like also treating the automatopoeia as a like using the energy of the line while making the automatopoeia to like intensify the action being presented. Um,
Absolutely.
one big influence for me in that is uh, oh my gosh, Appleseed Masamune Shiro
Yes.
in his Appleseed manga. He'll have like Japanese letters that will be like kind of pointing at the
Hmm.
character doing a thing. Like yeah, they're like kind of almost like a perspective, like going into the character. Which it just makes them feel that much more energetic.
Yeah, well,
And
it
yeah,
was like I am telling you to look at there at that
yes,
point. Do it.
exactly, yes, exactly. And it's just another tool that I can use that because we're working in this 2D medium where it's like I'm trying to make this jump out at you, um,
Mhm.
and I will do anything in my power to make that happen. So whatever it takes.
In that sense, I always swear by two names. Which one is John Workman,
Yeah,
Waters' letterer, and Ken Bruckner, who was Howard Chaykin's letterer.
yeah,
So if you watch The Shadow, or anything, or any of the stuff that Howard has been made for years, it's an integral part. And I think it's the same as you said. John Workman's work for Walt is the same
hmm
thing. They're integral part. You cannot
yes,
you cannot separate them. It's like if you take John or Ken and you see a book by them, something is missing,
yep, yep.
right?
I agree.
Let me see. Thits 1408 says, I plan to buy every single thing that this man creates. Just so you know.
Thank
Felipe
you.
Gonzalez says, are you going to publish all your sketchbooks in a single one, in a collected one?
Oh man, that's a really good question.
Omnibus. There's like an omnibus.
Seriously, I mean, it'd be an obscene amount of work. A lot of the stuff is like a lot of the sketchbook stuff is stuff that's not necessarily worth printing because they're just ideas.
Hmm.
They're not in any way finished pieces. But there are some really cool drawings in there that I still love. It would be kind of cool to have like a art of Daniel Warren Johnson at some point. Well,
Hmm.
we'd have to figure that out.
When you all guys, this is just a suggestion. When you all make, Better Ray Bill, huge sex, 250,000 per book, just to start issue one. And
Sounds good.
that's not counting the variants. So if you do that, that is when Daniel's going to say, I can stay 3 months without doing anything. Also, I
Yeah,
can prepare my omnibus, blah, blah, blah. When the royalties come, so that would be by the end of this year. So more or less, guys, make it sell, and then we'll talk about the omnibus schedule. How does it sound, Daniel?
that sounds good to me. I like that.
Say Pedro Mercader says, how was it to pitch? Sorry, how was it to pitch for the crazy concept of Murder Falcon? Love the personal and heartbreaking bits.
Thank you so much. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Um, well, for me, so I was working with Skybound at the time when working on Murder Falcon, and a big part of the reason Murder Falcon was able to be made is because my previous book called Extremity was also with Skybound, and the working relationship established during Extremity was very positive. All the people at Skybound are great people. It's a great working team. Everybody's on top of their game, and I did my very best to bring my A game as well to Extremity. And it was like a pretty much. I mean, it didn't sell amazing, but it was like a critical success. People really liked it. I think, yeah, it got an Eisner nom. I forget that. I
You
always
sure? You
forget that.
sure?
No, I literally forget it. I'm like, oh yeah, that happened. um, and so uh, it was at as we were wrapping up on Extremity, I had a conversation with my editor, Sean Makowitz, um, and I had this idea for Murder Falcon, and I basically went up to Sean and I was like, "This is the next book that I'm doing. It's called Murder Falcon. You don't have to publish it, but I'm going to be doing it either way, with or without you. So you can get on now, or you can let me do it at Image Central. But it's happening." And he's like, "Okay, I think we can make that happen."
I
um,
can imagine Sean or John telling you, just so you know, you got an Eisner nomination. So yeah, we can do it. I know
well,
you don't remember, Daniel, but you got it.
so this was at Emerald City 2017, I think. Emerald
Mhm.
City 2017. And I was telling my friends, like, because we're all hanging out. It's a Comic Con. I'm hanging out with my buddies, and I'm telling them about my new book idea called Murder Falcon. And I'm telling them about it, and everybody and their mom is making fun of me, right? They're like, "Oh, this is such a dumb name, Murder Falcon," and they're giving me a hard time. Is all in good fun, but they're just tearing me apart. And I was like, just you guys wait. This book is going to be so cool. You have no idea. And Skybound's going to say, yes, I'm saying this right now. And they were like, no way, it's not going to happen. So I pitched Sean, my editor, Sean, and Sean is, he's high up the food chain, but the guy who really makes the decisions is Robert
Of
Kirkman.
course.
And so I pitched it to Sean, and Sean was like, I'm going to see if I can make it happen. We'll let you know. And the next day, so all my these friends that were like naysaying me were sitting next to me at the show floor,
No shit,
and
that you got the approval. Oh, go, please.
well, so Robert stops by 2 days later. This is like Saturday or Sunday, and he was kind of like comes up and he's like, "Hey, I heard about Murder Falcon," and all my friends are like looking at me and like checking out like what's gonna happen. And Robert goes, "I love it. Let's do it. Let's make it happen." And I just like I had all my friends eat crow, just like, "Hey, you see that? You see that right there?"
And Daniel suddenly did.
It's so funny. It was a good time.
Oh, that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. And did you regret doing that book?
Murder Falcon?
Yeah.
Did
After
I
all
re-
that hype and after Robert doing that, you were like, "Oh my god, all my friends are gonna kill me if this doesn't work."
No, I was so confident. Like the vision and the tone of the book was so clear in my head even before I had started it. Um I just knew. I knew it was special. And it didn't sell well at all, but that doesn't matter. Like it's a book I'm most proud of still.
Mhm.
And it's going to be it's like I don't know, it's just a very pure it's like a very purely me story. I just kind
Mhm.
of put myself on the page and I think it reads that well, and man, I had a blast making that comic.
And
I
that's
mean, it
that's
was
why,
so
that's why I have to ask, not about
yeah,
Extremity that much, but about this one, because that's how it felt to me. How much did you learn about yourself while doing that book?
a lot. I kind of had to open myself up, in a way that I hadn't really done my stories before. Um, and I also my it was in the middle of issue 2 that I had my daughter was born, and
Hmm.
this is her name is Fiona, and I was a new dad. And if you'll notice the art style from Extremity to Murder Falcon, it changes pretty significantly
Yeah.
because I had all the time in the world to like add my lines and do whatever I wanted on Extremity, and then all of a sudden I have a daughter who like needs me, and my wife needs backup, and I'm like, okay, I gotta finish this page. um, so I was having to kind of like change my art style to fit my life because of just
Hmm.
what was going on at the time. And it was really good. It was like a way for me to be able to survive while also making comics. And um I I was also having elbow pain at the time. Like in the middle of Extremity, my elbow was really starting to bother me.
Oh,
And
do you have carpal tunnel?
it wasn't carpal tunnel. It was like just like right here and like right here. And so I noticed that when I was like working on Extremity, when I'd work with my microns, I would like basically flex,
Ah.
I just because I'm an idiot and like I'm like I'm going like this with all my detail. And I had to change the way I approached drawing. Like I had to be looser.
Hmm.
Um, so it was a bit of self self saving. Um,
Self-preservation, say
thank
it.
you. Oh God. Monday. Self preservation and um, mental preservation as well, not just physical. And in a way, I had more fun drawing Murder Falcon in that sense than I did on Extremity. I mean, I still had a blast drawing Extremity, but
Mhm.
I became a little bit more of myself within Murder Falcon, learning more about myself, having these experiences while drawing Murder Falcon. Um, and it's just it's another way of keeping the comic book process fresh.
Mhm.
Um,
And it's also about, as we were saying before, the panic of the deadline for the big two. In this case, wasn't the panic, but it's more or less the same. It's just, I have to spend some time with my daughter, or one, I'm not going to see her. Even worse, my wife is going to kill me. So I have to save some. Now, this page that with Extremity, you will be like, oh, I can have 5 more lines. And then
right.
when you're in five, you add 25 more. With this one, it's like, if I don't finish this page now, I'm dead. So,
So and it's funny because like I basically when I finished Extremity, the day after I finished the last page of Extremity, my wife and I got on a plane. We went to Ireland for 10 days, and we had an amazing time. And then I got back from Ireland, and I was writing issue 1. I had almost finished writing issue 1, and Skyben was like, "Hey, do you like want to take some more time off?" I'm like, "No, no, I gotta keep going, and so I didn't take much time off at all. And then when they found, because they knew Rachel was pregnant, and
Hmm.
they were like, "Are you sure you want to like chill?" And I'm like, "No, I could do it. It's no big deal."
Who do you think you're talking to?
Yeah, yeah. And then like after Fiona was born, I was like, "Oh my god."
What have I done?
Yeah. Um, and then the same thing. I was like hoping to take a little more time off of comics from uh, Murder Falcon to Wonder Woman, but that didn't happen because I just didn't. I don't know why I didn't do that. I think DC needed me to start working on it. But then after Wonder Woman, I did take a bit of a break, um, partly because of the pandemic and partly because of just my own mental and physical
Hmm.
necessities. But uh, yeah, I did. But yeah, is I'm very thankful to have been able to work on those projects.
Hmm. La Balda de Comics says, is there, well, you already, Balda, just so if in case you didn't see it before, Daniel said that he would love to keep writing and drawing his own
Yes.
projects. But he asks, is there any writer or artist you could like to work with?
Oh, I'd love to work with Donnie again. Donnie Cates. I mean, he's a great writer. Actually, funny story. So the way that Donnie and I got connected is because I was reading his Dark Horse series called Buzzkill. This
Hmm.
is like way back in 2013, 2014, maybe even earlier. And I liked the comic so much that I just sent Donnie an email. And I was like, hey, I just wanted to let you know I love Buzzkill. I think it's so well written. I think you got a future. I can't wait to see what you do next. And Donnie, uh, I had a little like link at the bottom of my like email to like go to Space Mullet, my webcomic at the time, and he like emailed me back. He's like, "Dude, Space Mullet looks amazing. What's your number? We have to connect." And we talked on the phone for an hour or so, and we talked about maybe pitching some stuff. We just made a connection, and then when the Ghost Fleet was happening, he called me, and he's like, I my artist fell through. Can you be the artist on the Ghost Fleet?" I was like, "Sure, let's do it." Uh, and so that's how we got started, and that was kind of my break into comics was with Donnie's help, and we've kind of come up together, and so it's really cool to see to like we kind of Donnie and I like we've always been friends, we've always stayed connected, but like we're going doing our own things, and now we're kind of like working on the Thor universe together,
Hmm.
with him on Thor and me on Beta Ray Bill. It's just really cool to see that. So Donnie, I'd love to work with Donnie, and then artist wise, oh man, let's see. So I almost got to work with John Timms, who works on Superman books.
Hmm.
I was in line to write Superman for a little while at DC, and things didn't work out. But I remember talking. I took John Timms out when he came to C2E2 right before the pandemic hit. I took him out for some American barbecue, and we had a great time. I loved talking with him about like telling stories and the kind of writer that I am.
Hmm.
I'm the way that I write my scripts is like, page one, this character walks into a bar. By the end of the page, somebody punches them in the face. Page two, that's basically what my scripts are. And I told John, I was like, hey, how do you feel about this? He's like, I love that. Let's do it. I really like that the way that I like that style. So I'd love to work with John Tim someday, because I'm sad we did not get to work together. Um, let's see. I love Riley Rossimo's work. I
Hmm.
think he's fantastic. He's a good friend as well, and he works really hard. And the way he approaches laying out a page is like so different from mine. So I know if I gave him a script that I had written, I would have something in my head, and he would just not do that at all, which I would appreciate. So
Hmm.
those are some artists that I really like and would love to work with.
Okay. Hey, yeah, I know you guys are going to ask about Donnie and this show. I'm trying. Someday we'll answer. Someday it'll happen. I hope. So let me see. After Beta Ray Bill, Felipe Gonzalez asks, "Do you have any new projects with mainstream or independent characters in your sleep? What's next?" The question is, what's next after Beta Ray Bill? If you can say it.
Yeah, I'm 95% sure I'm going to do a image book that I'll be writing and drawing, and it will be um, well, it's a secret still, but it's going to be a mini series, just like all my other projects. But it will be creator owned. It will be a new characters. and I am super excited about it. And I think it's going to be awesome. We'll see. You know, it's a bit of a risk, but as soon as I know more, you'll be the first to know.
It's also Skybound or Central.
Image Central this time. I'm
Hmm.
breaking out on my own.
Hmm. Hmm. Nothing. We can't say anything else. Me, because I have no clue. Just be honest. Iruno says, hello, Magda, how are you? El Descampado says, David, just in case I hear Daniel lower than I hear you. That's true. I can hear you. If you can.
Let's see. Is that a little better?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's better. That's better. Thank
Okay.
you.
Cool.
Fernando Venier says, thank you for your question. Benjamin Flores says, Daniel Warren Johnson, Artist Edition in the future.
Oh, man. I've been talking with Skybound about maybe an Extremity Artist Edition. It may be coming in the future, maybe later in 2021, but that's a maybe. We'll see.
We'll see.
I
And
hope.
if not, as we said, you guys, 250,000 per issue of Beta Ray Bill, and then we'll convince somebody else. But it depends on you. It's your fault. If you
Yeah,
don't get the books that many copies sold, then you don't complain to Daniel. He has a life, has to pay for bills. He has a young daughter. I'm sorry, gotta cover the bills.
I like this 250,000 copies of Beta Ray Bill. I think that's a good goal.
It is a good, it's crazy, but this is comics.
Yeah.
We do great. That's what we do. We do crazy, right?
Oh, yeah.
Antonio Hernandez says, after your Beta Ray Bill, and I agree with him, I suppose the least we can expect from you next is a 12-issue maxi series about Frog Thor.
Oh, man. Well, I will say this. When Marvel approached me, because like when I was talking about them with doing Beta Ray Bill and things were like maybe yes, maybe no, Marvel's editor-in-chief came up to me and he at C2E2. This is the C2E2 in 2019. And he said, what do you want to do at Marvel? Like, what does it take to get you over here? And I said, Beta Ray Bill. And I think he was a little surprised. I think maybe he thought I was going to say Wolverine or Spider-Man or something. But, I was like, if you want me to work at Marvel, I want to work on Beta Ray Bill. So Beta Ray Bill is the #1 character at Marvel. Like, it can't get any better for me. I think, if anything, I'd want to do a Spider-Man comic next.
But not Frog Thor. I'm sorry, Antonio.
I'm sorry, Antonio.
And also, I could say, Antonio, Frog Thor is Walt.
Yeah, it's very Walt. Yeah.
Just leave it there. It worked. Maybe you can hate me, Daniel, for saying this, but it's so much Walt that I don't know if anybody else can make it work aside of Walt. I'm sorry.
Fair.
Probably you could, but I don't know. It's too crazy. I'm just trying to get off the hook here, my friend. Yes. No, Daniel Valadez says, hello, huge fan of Daniel. Greetings from Mexico. So we have Costa Rica, Mexico, Colombia, Spain.
Awesome.
Keep going. Fallas. Oh, by the way, ask him about wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
You should take a look at my promotion here in Spain called White Wall Wrestling. Yeah, the thing is that he's the head concept artist at Amazon Prime, a comic book artist, but he's also a wrestler. Rodrigo.
That's awesome. What's his promotion called? I'm gonna look it up.
Promotion is White Wolf Wrestling.
Check it out.
Nice AEW hat.
Thank you.
Of course, he's going to realize that because he's his thing.
I mean, I'm a huge wrestling fan. It's been a source of a lot of creative energy in the past. I started watching it when my daughter was born and I was stuck in the house all the time. So I started watching New Japan, which is a Japanese-based promotion, which I love. And I will say there's a good chance that my next project will be wrestling related.
Oh, you just told him the magic words. When you check his name online and you see, you'll see, you understand a lot of things.
Right on.
He's motherfucking crazy, Rodrigo. I mean, but in a good way. Marowak Oscuro tells you, "Hi Daniel, love your work. Do you have in mind a sequel or a spin-off to Extremity?"
No sequel or spin-off to Extremity planned. The story that I told was just this. How do I say it? I designed it to be that specific arc, and I kind of left the opening, I left the ending purposely open so that people could come to their own conclusions about it. So no plans for Extremity.
So ambiguous ending, guys, sometimes doesn't mean it's going to continue. It means it's in purpose. Just so you know. Ricardo Baptista says, and Portugal. So we also have Portugal here. That's good. And Thaya says, I will work for free on that project. As I told you, he's a little nuts about wrestling. Matter what, from that promotion, I recommend to you the 8 Kid versus Osprey, a beautiful match you can see in YouTube.
Oh, awesome. Okay, I'll check it out.
Guys, you're all nuts in a good way. But you're all nuts. Anyway, we're saying, if I ask you, for you, comics, is it a storytelling? Is it a symphony opera? Is it jazz or is it rock and roll?
I feel like it's do you know Steve Vai?
Of course.
Yeah. I feel like it's like Steve Vai working with an orchestra when he does For the Love of God, and he has the full orchestra backing, but he's like totally wailing with his electric guitar, and there's like a full like huge drum kit. Or like Dream Theater when they like have like a full orchestra pit, below when they're doing their like prog rock. So the best is when they're meshed together. That's what I feel like it is.
And what do you think is continuing with that, what do you think is the most unique thing that comic has when compared to other media?
I really like how it's a budget destroyer in the sense that, if you want a TV show where something really crazy happens where you need this crazy budget, there is the only way to get that done is if you have enough money or a producer, or you make creative decisions, or a story that is compromised in that sense to make for a good enough budget to like make that scene happen in your mind. But when you're working on comics, it's like the only thing that's stopping that scene from happening is your work ethic. And that's something that's really exciting to me, and I really love how there's so much freedom. And one thing I noticed, in high school, in one of my English classes, we were reading a lot of Shakespeare, and it was hard for me to get into because none of the action scenes were broken down. It was just like, Romeo fights this guy, and Romeo fights and defeats this character. And I didn't realize, because then when this script is in the hands of an artist or of a group of people that want to make this come to life, there's so much creative freedom there. It's like, okay, well, how does he best him? How does that interaction happen for real? Like if you really get into the nitty gritty, and you work with people and you choreograph and you get the costumes and you figure out what weapons you're going to use and what's the tone. And when in comics, it's like you only need one person to figure that out. It can be a singular vision in a way that is presentable and can be finished and can be ingested in a way that can really move and excite people. But it's only coming from like maybe one person. Which, I mean, there's so many things like that, but so much art relies on collaborative experience and like working together, which is ultimately, I think, an amazing thing. But at the end of the day, if you have something in your head that you want to get on paper, you have the ability to do so. You just have to sit down and do it. And you don't actually need any outside anything. So it is kind of an insular thing, but it's not, I don't think that's inherently negative. I think it's really special and something that's unique to the comic medium.
I don't think it's negative at all, because, and let me know if you agree with this, because at the same time, comics are the most collaborative effort between the creator and the reader, right? Because in other arts, and I'll go back to this again, in other arts, you're watching a movie, you're just watching the movie. The movie does what it wants, and you're passive, completely passive. Same with a novel, same with, but with comics, you can write whatever way you want, but the reader is who decides how far, how fast, how slow, aside of the manipulation I'm going to talk about later. But it's the reader who decides, oh, I want to go back and that page again, etc., etc. So you need to think as we are going back to the beginning, you need to think about how much readers know about comics,
Right.
and they know a lot. So if I hint at that, less is more.
Mm,
That reader is going to know what I'm intending, right? So
right.
that's also important, the collaboration between you and your readers, right?
Yes. Yes.
So
I
go.
totally agree.
So in that sense, how important is for you? Um, how important pattern recognition is to you?
Pattern recognition in the sense of like, what do you mean?
Imagine, I'm a caveman. That bush there is rustling, so fuck, I'm running because probably there's an animal there that's gonna kill me. So
Okay.
in that sense, that you're, that's what I was going before with the less is more. You have Batman, you're not going to have to draw the whole Batman. You just, the pointy ear and that, and everybody knows it's fucking Batman. So, and that as an artist, you use that in your advantage. So that's why I mean, how much do you play with that, knowing, especially since you had your Fiona,
Yeah.
and you learn, time is a little thing that is very valuable.
Mm.
How much do you use that? You know what? I'm just going to give them hints here, here, and here because I know they're going to complete it. That's what I talked about with pattern recognition.
Yep. Okay. So, I think I see this a lot in manga where for in like maybe the first issue of a series or whatever, you'll have if there's something very complicated going on or a certain power or a piece of technology that is important or integral to the work of the story, a creator, what I try and do is I might even like devote a whole page
Mm-hmm.
to the breakdown of how this thing is going to work. Let's say it's like some sort of energy weapon that is like, I don't know, part of an arm or whatever. Like I might like take the whole page to like show things flipping around and really like breaking the whole process down. And then now that that is set, the visual language is kind of I've educated my readers, and
Mm-hmm.
the next time they do it, I could just go freak like it's like one little panel, or like literally just like an action panel where it's their arm has changed or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and they know because it's based on what happened before. I remember you getting really overwhelmed because I like saying I like showing, not telling, especially when it comes to like little idiosyncratic things that
Mm-hmm.
might happen in a character or pieces of technology that really add like salt to a story, and like just character to a character. So I'll what I'll do is I like to educate first, and then I just use shorthand for the rest of the series afterward.
Yeah, so
Uh,
you establish the world, and the moment you
yes,
establish it, you trust your reader. I established
exactly.
it, you saw it. I am not going to boom, 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 knock the hammer again because
Right.
I know you've been following me. You're following, so you know where it's coming from, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So I take one time to just like to really lay it out, and like especially if it's visual and not something that not talked,
Mm-hmm.
not told, I'll really be very explicit with how it's going to happen and the process, and then I just go and I
Mm-hmm.
don't worry about it.
And how important are page turns to you?
They're pretty important. I try not to rely on them a ton because what ends up happening I've found is like I write the same way a lot. Like it can kind of be kind of like you kind of like get like a writer tell.
Mm-hmm.
Like people kind of know what you're gonna do.
That's
So
why
I
I was asking, because I find that, I'm sorry to interrupt, because I
Mm-mm.
find that when people relies on page turns too much, it becomes like a formula. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes, which I'm actively trying to avoid. And part of it is there's a bit of a culture, a comics culture of the page turn, which I think is cool, but it's been used for a long time, especially in modern writing now, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to figure out how I can break away from it. Um, Sometimes it's necessary for just for surprises or big things, but I try and use page turns as a way to really take people's breath away.
Mm-hmm.
So either with a big vista or I like contrasting small with huge. So a lot of times before a double page spread, for instance, I will have a very tiny panel. Even if there might not even be anything in the panel, like just a little whoosh, like just literally like automatopoeia, like whoosh, and then you turn the page and it's just like, ugh. So, and treating it as like a visual spectacle rather than like a writing reveal.
Mm-hmm. And afterwards, we're talking about, imagine you're creating a project now, whatever project, and the point there is that I want to ask you about is, do those projects come from emotion or from a structure? I mean, you're a structure guy, or you are more, this is the emotion, that's what pushes me to want to do this project, and then I'll worry about how I structure it and how I make it work.
It's a little bit of both. That's a great question. You know, I really try and I try to make it so that every story that I write, I can like break it down. Like, what is this story about in one sentence? Um, and so there's like that emotion that's tied inherently into that sentence and like what I'm trying to say. And then that helps me when I'm writing to be like, does this scene add to this? Does this go in line with what I'm trying to say, or does it do something else? And if it does something else, it's got to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then as far as like structure goes, because we work on deadlines and where we work in genre fiction, we have issues and segments of story that need to be told at separate times, like issue 1, issue 2, and each one needs kind of a beginning, middle, and end in its own way. Structure is important. I can't just like write a novel like Stephen King, just like, well, let's just go and just go. Yeah, that's literally what he does. He just like comes up with a premise and he just writes for like 2 months and sticks it in a drawer, and it edits after. Whereas like I don't have that luxury. So, but I like to have organic things happen in a story where I even like that my characters will surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that I do that is I'll like come up with a very like detailed issue 1, like to the point where it's like everything is laid out. I know exactly what happens. And let's say a series is 7 issues long. The next, I might not know exactly what's going to happen in issue 2, but based off the threads of issue 1, I'll just try and write a paragraph of like what I think is going to happen. And I just go and I don't worry about it. Just even if it sounds so stupid. Then issue 3, I do the same thing. And issue 4, I do the same thing. I'm just working off the little threads from the last issue. And what ends up happening is it's getting hazier and hazier as I move forward, as I get farther down. So my paragraphs get smaller and smaller until like issue 7 would be like one sentence, right? Like the bad guy is defeated, or and as long as it like makes some relative amount of sense and I feel confident in issue 1 and the characters and the visuals, I'll just start writing issue 1. And then when I start getting into the brain of the character and I get to start feeling the tone of the story, by the time I've finished and edited and like kind of worked around issue 1, I'm ready to really tackle issue 2. And then as things change, as like I'm writing issue 1, I'm like, okay, that character wouldn't do that. This, and I'm keeping that emotion in mind. I'll start writing issue 2, and I'll like just write it through, and then the outline will start changing as issue 2 comes around. Things start evolving, and just in my head, I'm like, oh, now I know how I'm going to end it exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a mixture of the two.
Do you pitch stuff to yourself?
I don't pitch stuff to myself, but I'll talk to my wife about it, or my friend. Like, sometimes I'll like be hanging out with my friends, and I'll be like, "Oh, let me tell you about this new story that I'm thinking." And as I'm talking about it, I'm like, "Oh, that doesn't make any sense." When I just like say it out loud, and I'm like, "Okay, I got to think about that." But it's a great way to iron out the kinks when it's like, if I have to give an elevator pitch to my friends and I can't do it, it needs more work. So, yeah.
Yeah, I have friends of myself, and when I pitch things to my wife, many times she's just looking at her face, and if it starts changing, I'm like, oh, this is crap.
Yeah.
And then you start thinking yourself, and you're like, yeah, why did I even pitch that? that's so bad. But it also helps you, I guess, in a way. It's a process, right?
Yeah.
Even if I many times ask people, I was talking to Jason Aaron about this. When people think you're not working, you're like this.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh,
totally.
I can interrupt. I can go into the room and all that. And I literally just yell. And I was like, that's the moment when most of my work is happening. It's not when it's not when you're writing. It's not when you're drawing.
Oh.
Most of the work.
That's the easy part.
Right? Most of the work happens when you're thinking, right? Is that for you?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Oh, 100%. I'll sit around all day not writing anything, and just like nothing. And you're just sitting in, and I'm like, I'll go on a walk. I'll play my guitar for a little bit, and it's always kind of in the back of my mind, and it's just this awful stress because like I know what it looks like on the outside. It's like this guy looks like a lazy ass. Yeah. But then when it's like with some of the most impactful scenes and the scenes that have meant the most to me, writing wise, like they take me like 2 minutes to write out.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're just like that's it. I have it, and it clicks, and then you just be sitting there for like 2 days, just like just waiting for it to come to you, and so that's another reason why I have that sketchbook next to my bed. Like I was in this new series I'm working on. There was this like logistical, like world building thing that I was like really having a problem with how I was going to explain it. And then like I'm lying in bed. I was just about to fall asleep, and I'm lying down, and I'm like, I have it. Oh my god. Oh my god. I have to write this down.
Where's my sketchbook?
Yeah, get it down quickly, because I was like, I know I'm gonna forget this. And then I woke my wife up. I'm like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? She's like, it's fine. It's great. Go to sleep. So I hate to do this. I have to leave at 11:30 sharp. Is that okay?
Is that okay? It's
Okay.
perfectly okay. 11:30. So it's like when 6 minutes. Yeah. I was thinking about cutting it in 1 hour and 30, and we are in 1:20. So more or less, that's perfectly fine.
Awesome.
And again, you have a life. That's fine. That's
No, it's totally fine. I actually, my daughter's in daycare right now, so my wife and I are going to a museum together. We're gonna have a little day date, and I'm very excited about it.
Then that's more important. I hear my wife and my daughter just arrived, so probably in 5-10 minutes, that wall is going to sound like this. That's my cue. But anyway, we were saying, what does it happen to you that after all this we talk about, the characters, the thinking, the with the coming down the list and all that your characters, when you are, act 1, yeah, act 2, yeah, act 3, characters say, fuck off, no, doesn't work, I'm not that person, I'm not that character, fix it, or I'm not going to let you do it. Does it happen to you that they literally, I'm not calling you crazy, I'm not literally happen.
I got you.
They
I understand.
and slap you in the face, but does it happen when they fight you and say, that's not me, even if you created me, now I'm taking charge here, and you're wrong, and you have to change it?
100%. That happens all the time. It happens more often the later I get into the story, because when I'm writing issues like 1 and 2 and 3, the characters, they're there and they exist, but they haven't like come alive yet.
Mm-hmm.
They
I'm just saying hello to your wife.
By the time we're in like issue 5 and 6 in like a series, I am more in tune with what they're saying, and so I'm more apt to listen. So a lot of times it's toward the end of the book that those kinds of things will happen. It does take a while for them to kind of come to life for me, and like for me to really get in their heads.
Yeah, and they become confident, and then it's when they fight because they're assholes. Anyway, so Antonio Hernandez says, okay, now you have me dreaming about a Spider-Man epic by Daniel. I'm just going to go very fast, guys, because he has to leave. La Baghdad Comics, I really like the Rocktober you made. What are your favorite bands, musicians?
My favorite band of all time is a band from Philadelphia here in the States called Me Without You. I really love them a lot. I also love Skullfist. I love Power Trip. Man, there's so many, but my favorite band of all time is definitely Me Without You. It's one word. They're great.
Okay, how many creator-owned books, Dom Gomez, how many creator-owned books did you make before you got noticed by Marvel or DC? Would you recommend other people to follow the same process?
Yeah, part of it was I was working on a webcomic for a long time that got me noticed a little bit by Dark Horse. That was called Space Mullet. And then while working on Dark Horse, that's when I started on the Ghost Fleet with Donnie. That's when I started getting noticed a little bit by Marvel and DC people. But you got to start somewhere. Nobody wants to publish you until you're published. So you basically just have to put stuff up for free until people think you're good enough.
Let me tell you, Dom, the same phrase I tell everybody, any young creator. Editors love people who finish things.
Yes.
So do it online. We are not in the 80s. There's a lot of ways to do your own work. There's no excuses. I'm sorry, there is not. Have to finish the stuff, publish it in a blog, in a website, anywhere. You have places to do it.
Yep. Make sure it's visible and have heart in the sense that if your work is good, you're gonna get hired. Editors. It's not like editors like look at something that's awesome and they say, "Meh, You know, it's their job to find cool stuff. They're always on the lookout. They're always looking for, because like, especially now in the age of like Twitter and Instagram and digital media where images are so readily available,
Yep.
we're all seeing a ton of images a lot. And
Yeah.
it's the same with editors. They have phones too. They're scrolling through, they're looking.
Yeah.
And if they see something that catches their eye, they're going to reach out. So keep working at it and make sure your work is visible.
And yeah, I never think that editors have enough because they have a lot of talent. No, that's not how it works. They're always going to look for the new thing that attracts new readers, etc., etc. So,
Exactly.
Anibal Cortez, thank you for making the best superhero fight I have ever seen at Wonder Woman: Dead Earth. Diana did really beat that Kryptonian up. Ricardo Bautista, hi Daniel, are you planning to someday move away from genre fiction, even if it's a one-shot thing?
The idea really interests me. I still love drawing it, but the idea of just like more normal story, like not normal, more like non-genre fiction stories really does interest me. I haven't figured out exactly what that looks like yet. I'd love to do work for people that I'd love to tell other people's stories that like that's not genre fiction, like not like a comic book writer, but just like maybe somebody's life story and help
Mhm.
them tell that. That's something I've thought about a lot, but it hasn't come. It's like there's still pieces of my brain that are thinking about that, and hopefully eventually that will happen, but I'm not sure what it looks like yet.
Music Trip by Mortetti asks, hi Darren, congratulations for your amazing work. No comic question. What kind
Okay.
of music do you usually listen to? What bands of and styles? He already said it.
Oh well, I will say when I write, I don't really listen to music with words in it.
Mhm.
But John Carpenter, the movie director, he has a 3 records. They're called Lost Themes 1, 2, and 3. There's 3 albums, and they're awesome. And I listen to them all the time.
He just released a new album, right, with his
Yeah,
band.
Volume 3. Yeah,
I
it's
haven't listened to it yet.
fantastic. It's so good.
I heard about it last week. That he had released a new album, and I went, wait, what?
Oh, dude, he's crazy. He's just like plays video games, smokes pot, and like makes music. It's so cool.
Okay, so that is on my list. Believe me. He says, and when you practice on guitar, do you improvise or play covers?
I mostly improvise. I write my own music. I'm in my spare time. I'm writing a heavy metal record based around my favorite science fiction novel, Hyperion.
Oh, oh,
Yeah,
oh. Now I want to listen to it. Oh, because I love that novel. That's what I mean.
it's one of my favorite. It's in my top 5 favorite books of all time. That one and Fall of Hyperion, the second one. I love them.
Yes.
Wow, it's so
Drink and
good.
Drink and Draw Costa Rica said, awesome words. Always important to listen how creative processes impact people in different ways. Great work. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
As you could already tell from this YouTube channel and social media, Daniel is a class actor and an outstanding master artist. One of your top interviews so far, Daniel. Oh, David, that's me. So, yes, it's 166. That's saying a lot. So, just so you see.
I really appreciate that.
Lavalda Comics, it's been great to can listen to this interview. Thank you for your work, David. Me? No, this is not work. I'm not getting paid. This is just fun. We love to do it. This comics.
Right on.
Glad to hear you and Liam from Daniel. It has been a really interesting and enjoyable interview. Love from Spain. And Ricardo Batista, thank you so much for asking and answering my question. And that's it. And I'm going to ask you one more, and we're done. And I think we're exactly on the time you need to leave. So, is there anything, any story, any whatever that you've been wanting to do forever, but for whatever reason you've been saying not yet, not yet, not yet? For example, thinking I'm not ready, but you say that before retiring or dying, I don't see you retiring, so before you die, you are clear, like, I am going to do it.
There's a science fiction epic, like sci-fi opera story that like kind of in the vein of like
Wait, sci-fi or space opera?
More space opera, because like I don't like adhering to the rules of science, of actual science, you know.
See, this comics is great and it's fun.
Yeah. But kind of like Warhammer 40K meets Princess Mononoke. And you know, the visuals are so cool. I've got a sketches like, you know, this high of just tanks and guns and soldiers and like all this cool stuff that does not have a soul yet. Like it doesn't have the heart behind it. I'm trying to deal with things like time, the passing of time, and like learning how to let things go, like my daughter growing up, things like this, but
Mhm.
but turning it into like this epic sci-fi opera with like chainsaw guns, which is, it's not easy. And it's something that I know has value, and I was working on it for a while after Wonder Woman, when I wasn't sure if Beta Ray Bill was going to happen. I was working on it, like trying to make it happen, sitting like this, waiting for it, and nothing was coming. And finally, I had to shelve it.
Uh-huh.
Um, and it's sitting on the shelf. It's still valuable, but it's just not ready yet. But it's going to happen eventually. And
That's like
when it does happen, it's it's gonna be really special, I think.
that's like when I was talking to Greg Capullo, I always ask the same question, and Greg was telling me that's when people ask me how can I draw this and that now, in when I'm 50 something, and now when I
Yeah.
was 20 or 30 at Marvel, and he's like talking about the library that you have in your head. This,
Mm.
you live through things that
Yeah.
many times I'm not ready to do this project because I haven't lived through things. As you said,
Yep.
your daughter growing up, all the experiences around you, you cannot perceive them or notice them, so you cannot reflect them. But because in the end, and let me know if you agree, and then I'll leave you. I'll let you go.
You're fine.
When somebody when a writer denies that, she says, "Oh, whatever you see in the page, it's not me. It's not me at all."
Mm.
That's bullshit, right? Because in a way,
Right.
you're not going to be a Nazi, of course, if you put a Nazi on a page. But whatever you write on a page, it comes from you. It's your abstraction of reality, right? So
Yes.
if you are not ready as a person, maybe that project needs to wait.
Yeah. Agreed. I mean, that's exactly what's going on.
Okay. So, guys, we're leaving here. Thank you so much for being here. Please don't cut, because I want to say proper thank you, after we cut the live feed, to you, Daniel, but to all of you, thank you for being here. On Wednesday, Isaac Sánchez and Pablo Ríos. El miércoles, en español, Isaac Sánchez y Pablo Ríos. And on Friday, Marvel editor, King in Black, Donnie's editor, in fact, on Venom, Devin Lewis. So, see you all here on Wednesday and Friday. Have a nice week. Thank you
Thank you,
again.
everyone.
And we're off.
Okay.
Thank you again. Take care. Put your mask on.